Oh, you could also label it Sampledelia,
No, I'm not
like psychedelic.
I'm not labeling it that.
When else are we going to be able to use those?
Hopefully never.
No, but you, yeah, no, I can't believe she's never seen Vsauce.
No. What can I say?
Have her watch every single video.
No. I played a clip of one. Um I wanted to find the "Where are your fingers?" I feel like that's the most quoted one.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. But what is here, and can you hear it?
Yep. I'm 95% certain that's actually been an opening. But been up to anything fun today?
Went for a nice long run.
I saw that.
Went to the farmer's market.
Nice. Get anything good?
Got some kombucha,
Mm-hmm.
some chocolate almond butter,
Ooh, yummy.
um, a muffin.
Oh,
So
homemade muffin.
I was feeling. It was a strawberry poppy muffin,
Ooh,
which oof, choice.
I gotta admit that does sound tasty.
And it was pretty tasty. How about yourself?
Um, went on a spending spree yesterday. Not not actually, just had a bunch of stuff we needed to get. So got some curtain rods and some curtains up today.
That's a, that's your spending spree is curtain rods.
Well, I had to get some like a hose and stuff too. It ended up being a significant chunk of change at Menards, but
But you saved big money at Menards.
I spent big money.
Mm. But you saved even more.
No, I didn't. That's girl math.
Oh,
Um,
well, okay. That's sexist.
no, it's what my partner uses. It's like, well, we would have spent $80, but we only spent 40, so that means it was free.
That makes sense to me. It's like a tax write-off.
That's not how that works.
You're basically making money.
Because it would have been it was minus 40, but then it was plus 40, so that means it's zero, which means it's free. It's like, no, that's not how math works. We still spent $40. But
Have you ever seen that clip from the show Schitt's Creek?
you're gonna have to be more specific. The what it's a banana, Michael. How much does it cost? $10?
No, that's Arrested Development.
Oh, okay. Similar
There's a
vibes.
scene. Yeah, there's a scene from the show where they're arguing about spending too much money. He goes, "No, it didn't cost anything. It's I'm writing it off." He goes, "What?" He goes, "I'm writing it off." He goes, "That you still spent money on it." He goes, "Yeah, no, but I wrote it off, so I get it for free." He goes, "No, it means you paid less in taxes." And he goes, "Well, why does they call it tax write-off?" Then he goes,
But I
"Nice."
need to put up. Thankfully, I bought holdbacks, like tiebacks for all of them too. I only need one set though for one of the rooms, because the ones for the bedroom they're not paneled, but it's got like the holes through the top instead of you just put the bar through the curtain, so it lets it fold up nice and neat. But the one in the other room is like all bunched up because you just put the rod through the little gap in the top of the curtain, so it does need to be held back. But for some reason, even though the curtain rods got put up with nails, this one is like, yeah, you got to use screws. Like it's a holdback. Why am I? Why do I need to use two screws to put in a holdback? It's not going to be holding that much weight.
Because it's that robust.
I
What if you
guess
fall over and pull it by accident?
it's coming out of the wall. Then
Oh,
two screws aren't going to hold me up.
but it might take slightly longer.
Yeah, it'll just take more of the wall with it when it does.
A chunk of drywall falling on your head.
Yeah. So I got to do that after this. But it's nice to get the curtains up. Stop the cats from pawing at the windows while we're trying to sleep in.
Now they'll be pawing at the curtains.
Well, they can go behind the curtains. That's the beauty of it.
Um,
They can't lift the blinds. but they can
Yeah.
push behind the curtains.
Oh, nice. Well, you ready to jump into it?
Sure, we can get on started. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Audio Shop podcast. This week we listened to "Since I Left You" by the Avalanches, which I believe this was your suggestion, right, Coop?
Yeah, it kind of came out of we were reviewing the album Justice by Justice
Mm-hmm.
last week, and they did quite a bit of sampling on it. So it got me thinking about another album I'm quite fond of that uses a lot more sampling.
Yeah.
Um, and that was this album here, which, to give a little background, it's again the Australian electronic music group, the Avalanches, formed in Melbourne all the way back in 1997. This album's from the year 2000.
Australians.
Yes, and they've actually only released 3 albums. This one, Wildflower in 2016, and We Will Always Love You in 2020. And it's really just it's because it's a electronic music group. It's a duo consisting of Robbie Chatter and Tony DeBlasi. So another electronic music duo. And of course, this is their debut album, released in the year 2000. And it kind of became famous for its extensive use of samples across multiple genres. And it was actually quite popular at its release. Acclaimed by critics, it actually peaked on the Australian charts, the Norwegian charts for some reason, UK, United States, on the electronic albums. And it actually won on some of the Australian awards. Yeah. And it was listed as number 10 in the book of 100 Best Australian Albums. Cracked the top 10.
Wow. Must have not had many albums to go through then.
Okay. I'm noticing. I didn't want to bring it up here. I'm noticing bits and pieces of displeasure coming out of you, Sam.
Well, you wanna start talking about the album?
Yeah, let's jump right into it with track number 1 here, title track, "Since I Left You."
Yeah. If I can type and think at the same time,
Which you cannot.
Which I cannot. Famously. You can really tell they're doing a lot of sampling right out the gate.
Well, again, it's a plunderphonics album, so kind of the whole mantra of it is to base the songs around as much sampling as possible. So as opposed to, let's say, a Daft Punk or maybe even a Justice, right, where there's prevalent sampling, where maybe they base the main groove around it. This one's almost using the sampling itself as the instrument. All right, so just pulling it all together, and of course, I think there's some original instrumentation here as well, but melding it in a way that basically forms a new sound.
Yeah. The original in this is they got some mainline flute that comes in. I assume it's original. Very light and airy feeling, you know. It's got some good build to it. You get some strings that pop in as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of built around this the main chunk of this song is the prominent vocal sample from the band Main Attraction's song "Every Day," released in 1968. And it's actually altered a bit because I went back and listened to the song. First off, it's pitched up, so it's kind of chipmunky.
Okay.
But the actual song itself, its main lyrics are "Since I met you, not since I left you." So they like altered the sound a little bit to make it sound like since I left you.
Interesting. I will say that's interesting. It's a little invisible, but that's kind of the point of it. You know, you don't listen to Daft Punk and be like, "Oh yeah, that's from this song."
Yeah, I mean, this is. We talked about like how many samples Justice did, but this one's like they really wear it on their sleeves, of pulling from these different sources. And like you said, there's kind of this mixture of the flute, this kind of disco-y sound, which is going to be prevalent throughout the entire album.
Of course,
and it's kind of solid. Yes, of course, they present glockenspiel throughout, and these kind of backing pulled vocals as well. So to a nice kind of, it's a little danceable, but honestly, a pretty relaxed opening.
Yes, yeah, it kind of gets you in the groove for it. I thought I heard a little bit of vocoder way in the background as well, but I might have been mistaken about that.
Which I wouldn't be surprised. This did come out in 2000, so I always have to place of like what they're pulling from and what were kind of the conventions at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, Daft Punk also would get into the disco sound, but that'd almost be more prevalent on like some of their later albums.
Yeah.
Um, so this kind of almost predates that a little bit.
Jump into track 2 if you're ready.
Yes, track number 2, Stay Another Season, which rolls quite smoothly in from the last song, which is going to be a reoccurring theme in this album.
Yeah, I will say it's a different style of rollover, which I like. It extends the previous song into the new one rather than changing the end of the previous song. It feels a little more natural. I mean, I guess I guess it really only matters if you're looking at which track you're on. But being used to looking at which track you're on, it was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, and when you say rollover, it really is like, throughout the first couple, like the first minute of the song, you can still hear the "Since I Left You" vocal refrain kind of floating in the background, kind of like you walked into another room that was playing a different song, but you could still kind of hear the other, song from the other room. It's an interesting effect.
Yeah, it stays. The voice line, as you said, stays along with the glockenspiel. I would say probably about halfway through the song. Even then, it still keeps peaking itself up throughout the remainder of the song every once in a while.
Yeah, and this album definitely likes its leaf motifs. I'll say, where like even songs down the line, like little samples will pop back up again, which is kind of one of the fun things about heavily sampled albums of is you can very easily kind of plop in the different songs, kind of help thread the needle of the album cohesion.
Yeah.
Introduces the first but not last horse whinny sample on this album.
This was the start of my hatred of that horse whinny. It's constant, and it's like every 2 seconds.
Yeah, this is way not like
too often.
It's a very prevalent horse whinny. And it's not like a heavily like distorted like, oh, that was a horse whinny. No, this is a straight horse whinny sample.
Yeah, it's bad. It's way too frequent. It's too loud. Why did they include it?
I like it. I'll first say I completely understand why you wouldn't like it, because it is a horse whinny sample, but it kind of plays into this. I mean, the whole album kind of has this eclectic mix of sounds that go on throughout it. So having a kind of a sample that almost is intentionally jarring kind of adheres it in a weird way. But I can certainly see why it wouldn't be someone's cup of tea.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I was a fan of the a little bit of Spanish style guitar in there, and with the grand piano that was exclusively in the left ear and percussion in the right. It doesn't sound like it would work, but it did. I found.
Yeah, and there was also a little bit of Spanish guitar right at the beginning of "Since I Left You," so there's definitely some, and we'll hear more of it throughout the album. They really like their Spanish guitar samples.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame them? Spanish guitar is great.
I don't blame them either. But we can get on to track number 3 if you're ready, Sam.
Yes, track 3.
Yeah, track number 3, Radio. So you definitely say the word radio a lot on this song.
Yeah. And again, there's some really high pitched squeaking looped in the background, which it feels unnecessary. It really sticks out.
I mean, it's almost like the electronic equivalent of the horse whinny.
Yes, I agree.
in a weirdly cohesive kind of way. But it's also paired with like these kind of intermittent like I can only call it wooing. Like
yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, I can't agree. I don't agree with very piercing sounds being looped every 2 seconds.
I can understand why not. I think it works in the fact that it's also paired with a pretty densely layered like sample like instrumentation. So like again, it almost serves as this kind of weird anchor effect.
I'm gonna disagree.
Or kind of helps you not get like a buoy in an ocean, a very piercing buoy.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's you're having dinner and somebody crop dusted, you know. It's very sharp.
Well, this song does have a very good bass line.
Yeah. It's got a kind of funk style guitar line with some nice bleepy bloopy synth.
Yeah, and I quite like that bloopy synth that kind of almost takes on the like bleed melody or vocal line of the song.
I would say it sounds more technologically advanced than just radio, but teach their own.
I mean, was the radio? I guess the radio was already on the way out in the year 2000, right?
Yes, yes, it was. I realize the centuries have run together for you, but
Like Sam, I wasn't born until 2008, so I'm still just trying to.
I forgot this. We celebrated your 6th birthday last week.
Yes, I've aged in terribly.
And I would say this isn't wall of sound enough to be shoegaze, but it feels really close.
Yeah, I mean, like you can understand everything that's going on. It's not wall of sound as much as like kind of I don't know. If wall of sound is like literally overwhelming, this is more like 1,000 cuts kind of method.
Yeah,
It's a lot of indistinguishable pieces that'll come at you at once.
lot of looping. That's for sure.
Yes, and that's where a lot of the house or dance kind of influences come in.
Jump into track 4 if you're ready.
Yes, track number 4, 2 Hearts in 3/4 Time. We start with the very not goofy, but kind of a jarring sample of like guys saying money in kind of funny ways with an ooh yeah, oh yeah sample.
Yeah. Lots of high pitched cheering as well. Followed by what I thought sounded like Estelle, but if I had to guess from the credits on that, I would say it'd probably be Marlena Shaw doing kind of like an ooh, the ooh vocals.
Yeah, and it kind of melds away into a very I mean, it's in 3/4 time, so it's almost got a waltzy quality to it, with kind of those la la las kind of floating over a more relaxed electronic kind of sample.
And whenever the loop is cut, it cuts everything, even the non-looped instruments, which is it's interesting. I don't dislike it, but I also don't like it. I'm kind of neutral on it. It's like, oh, okay, that's something.
Yeah, it's an interesting effect where it like imposes the loop on everything, not just the loop sample itself.
Yeah.
Of course, that breaks out in some areas where like there's like a very nice, mild like keyboard solo at like the 1 minute mark. I'm not gonna say it gets to like yacht rock or anything, but
No.
it's almost got that kind of music vibe.
Yeah.
Music with a K.
I didn't really get a main through line to this one, but it is interesting.
It's interesting.
I think it's interesting. But the roll to the next song starts at the end of this one, so they're kind of just shifting up where the roll goes, which is nice. It does kind of treat the whole thing as one long song, for the most part.
Yeah, and the ending of this song, which actually really melts into "If You're Ready, Sam."
Yeah.
Track number 5, Avalanche Rock.
Well,
They start saying, "Oh, it's the shortest track on the album at 22 seconds." And it is definitely a guy saying Avalanche Rock over and over
that's
again.
The only thing I had down to. He certainly says Avalanche Rock. Not.
I mean, the only other thing I can say is like it's got almost like this 60s kind of spy vibe to it.
I didn't
like
get
with
that
those
at all, but
with those guitars and flicking back and forth. But I mean, it's gone pretty fast. Yeah. So,
well, we can move on to track number 6 then.
Yes, track number 6, Flight Tonight. Which they also say Flight Tonight a lot too.
If I have to hear that line one more time, I'll go crazy. It's such a short loop, and this is where I come to hate sampling. Is yes, okay, we know you sampled it. Maybe use another goddamn track for once. It's that this got on my nerves a lot.
I mean, it didn't bother me that much. I kind of like the effect it had for it. I mean, obviously, the main vocal sample is like rock solid in terms of just like staying where it's at. It's more of how like the instrumentation changes around it.
Yeah, and
Um,
there is some really fun, interesting sounds around it because very electronic on this one. We've got like satellite noises whizzing around between ears and bleeps and bloops.
yeah, it's got this very like deliberate, like almost alien feel. Um,
But man, that vocal line just does not quit. It
I
stays
mean, there's also
right
the
there.
it's just that guy saying it the exact same. I mean, it's switching between that and the female vocal line that's just saying, I'm pretty sure Jamaica,
Yeah.
which I guess is where the flight's to.
I think my issue with it is isn't the song like 4 minutes long?
Oh, yeah, just about a little south.
It's that's where it gets to me. It's like, okay, yes, there's and this kind of stands for the rest of the album too. There's some really interesting themes and ideas, but they take them too long.
Mm, I mean, I would say too long. I mean,
I
at
would.
least I'll play devil's advocate here. That almost being a necessary feature of like house and dance music. Um, I mean, we saw it in Justice. We've seen it in Daft Punk. Um, which maybe it could be snappier, but it does vary it up. It does have like a French rap verse in the back half,
I like that. Yeah.
which I quite liked. It's around this pretty wild synth and like drumming like that pops in and out, which is I found really fun.
Yeah, it's certainly a track on this album. I'll give it that.
Then we can go to the next track I've already, Sam.
Track 7.
Yes, track number 7, Close to You, which kind of takes the dance vibe from Flight Tonight and melts it into a more of a, I mean, this is just straight up a disco sample.
Yeah. Yeah, that there's that grindy electronic synth that sounds very Daft Punk-esque.
Yes, and I mean, this would have been 2000, so it would have been after a couple of Daft Punk albums, so I'm sure they were an obvious influence. As was basically every band that did an electronic album after them.
Yeah, yeah. That's to be expected.
You think these bands ever get tired of like hearing like, ooh, this is kind of like Daft Punk?
Probably, I know I would. Yeah, we get it. No one's ever going to be as good as Daft Punk.
What if literally every rock album you listen to, you're like, this is kind of like Bruce Springsteen?
I mean, I already do that with ELO, but
Well,
I'm just a weirdo who references
your
that
brain's
too much.
broken.
Yeah. But we get a break, and there's some really nice soft synth and drum set, and a vocalist who's super far away. That whole section was a little odd. It's interesting, but again, I think it just goes on just a fraction too long.
I mean, I kind of appreciate one of the things I appreciate about this album is the fact that they almost like have built-in breathers into the songs. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, these loops can, be pretty significant. So these kind of softer moments are baked in that give an album a nice ebb and flow, as opposed to, some dance album, which, can be good, but also can be kind of unrelenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was more of it. It dropped so much. There was such a drop in energy. It was just kind of, ooh, okay, hold on.
I think it earns it back a little bit, where like a bit of a, I mean, it's a, sample of a guy saying disco, but then it actually jumps into an actual disco sample.
Yeah, and there's the I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, the 220ish mark, where it's just straight, just they plopped another song into their song.
I mean, it's the Isley Brothers. It's literally an Isley Brothers sample. But it's also paired with kind of that backing flute and synth that they've kind of maintained throughout the album.
Yeah. There's kind of like a rap portion before that I quite enjoy. I don't know if it is rap or it's just because there's some of the sample, some of that is they garble it so much that it sounds like rap, but I'm not sure it's actually English anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that probably because rap or spoken word pairs a little bit better with samples than, a sung sample, just because that requires a lot more modulation to fit with whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like how this song, that rap verse and the disco verse kind of meld together into as the song closes, kind of brings it to like a nice closer at the end.
I agree. Yeah. It's the I will say though, for the ending, I'm kind of flipping between loving it and hating it. There's just a bit too much going on for it to be coherent. The end of the song definitely gets into shoegaze.
It definitely gets almost too busy, but it kind of melts out right before it hits that. Um, at least in my opinion. Probably because it kind of introduced each. It's like good game design. You introduce an element and then another element, and then you combine them for a better challenge, right?
Yeah, this for me, this got too, it got to be too much by the end.
Which fair enough. It does end on a nice little piano that leads into the next song.
Mm-hmm. Rolls into track 8 if you're ready.
Yes, track number 8, Diners Only. Which starts with a sample of it sounds like women talking at like over dinner before a gentle whispered rap verse kind of goes back into the song.
Yeah, I will say it doesn't. I didn't feel like there was very much distinction between 7 and 8. I felt like they really tied together quite well.
Yeah, but they're also still kind of distinct enough that you can see why that cutoff point was where it's at.
Yeah.
Because it really takes it down a little bit. I mean, it carries over a lot of elements from Closer to You. And this is a shorter song at a minute and a half. So it's almost kind of bridging the song and the next song.
Yeah.
And that flute comes back.
Yes. A little bit of that twinkly flute. Jump into track 9 if you're ready.
Yes,
This
track number
one,
9.
like a minute 20.
Yes. But track number 9, A Different Feeling. Kind of maintains the disco-ish energy, but with a lot more focus on the, I don't know, kind of a dreamier electronic sound.
Yeah, well, it starts with a hard cut from Diners Only, which is a bit jarring considering it's been rolling pretty steadily.
Yeah, it definitely kicks in with a different feeling.
Yes.
And also I'm laughing because there's a lot of laughing samples throughout this song.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Like, I mean, I'll give it to them. When they find a sample, they use it.
Yeah. I started having complaints around here. There's some nice odd video game noises as the main instrumental line, quote unquote, but the loops are so short. So short. And they're not really, because like when you think of a Daft Punk sampled song, they speed it up, slow it down, move them around to make a beat. Oftentimes here, yes, you mentioned, they pitched it up a little bit and made it sound like she said left instead of met. They're not really doing anything with the instrument parts here. They're just kind of taking them and sticking them in as is, which I get is a style, but it kind of in my head I got the you ever seen one of those minivans that has like a shit ton of stickers stuck to the back window?
Yeah,
that was my thought process here.
a little too much going on.
Also, just somebody like, oh, I'm gonna put all these mismatched things together, and it just forms a wall of sticker.
I think that's a little of a negative take on it. I certainly don't think that song does it as well as the other songs, so I can understand it coming here. But I think, they kind of meld around it. There's like instruments coming in and out. There's some dropouts. Obviously, it's a short loop, but it doesn't stay the entire song.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate how it kind of builds up around that specific feeling that it goes for.
Yeah,
It kind of ends on a nice kind of violin sample and piano and synth that kind of mellows out the song near the end.
yeah. It does roll nicely into track 10 if you're ready to go to that one.
Yes, track number 10, Electricity, which was actually the first single that came out for this album.
It reads it. I also don't think I spelled electricity right. No, I did. Doesn't look like a word. Um, it starts. I like this one a bit more because it starts everyone starts in an interesting place, but then the song goes on too long, and the main loop ends up being about 3 seconds, and you come to hate it. This one has quite a bit of variation over the 3-minute song, which I like quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with this kind of heavenly operatic vocals, but very quickly kind of pivots into this kind of oddly hypnotizing kind of groove.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of, each minute is kind of its own thing, I felt. Like the first it's very electronic with some really harsh electricity sounds, which I quite liked.
I did like this, the little research on this was that the song features prominent samples of Rap Dirty by American musician Blowfly, as well as guest vocals from Australian singers Sally Russell and Antoinette, yes, Halloran. And several critics' reviews of the song noted its disco sound and likened it to the work of French electronic music duo Daft Punk. So, hey, they were doing this back in 2000. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not just us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody's been doing it ever since Daft Punk came out.
Ever since Daft Punk invented music.
Yeah. And I really like the rollover because it has a really fun Wurlitzer, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of sounds churchy.
Or it's almost an like organy or kind of heavenly feel to it.
Yeah. I don't like what the next track does with does with it, but
Yeah, no, I mean, it keeps a very, like you said, kind of a light feel, but very danceable and like just a general fun vibe.
mm-hmm.
Some of these songs have a bit of a heaviness to them at times,
Yeah.
but this one definitely keeps the focus on the groove. And that takes us to the next track, if you're ready, Sam.
Yes.
Track number 11. Tonight May Have to Last Me All My Life. Which gets pretty dang woozy, if I might say.
Yeah. It starts in a really interesting place, but then keeps resetting to that start, killing any semblance of momentum that the song has.
You mean that hypnotic little piano loop that is kind of built around?
Yes. And they drop all instruments back out whenever it restarts.
Yeah, this one's like intentionally, I mean, as much as you can get on this album, kind of stripped back.
Yeah.
Or like you said, it kind of there's this dropout. There's that kind of short piano loop that's like the main focus, and of course the main vocal line that's saying the title of the song.
Yeah.
It's almost like I mean, this is like it's almost kind of like a record skipping or kind of on repeat almost.
Yeah. It feels like they wrote 20 seconds and said, or sorry, not wrote. They grabbed a bunch of samples, stuck them together to reach 20 seconds and said, yep, that's good. Loop it for 2 minutes.
Yeah, this one's, I agree. This one's a little one note. It's a nice note, yeah, I will say. But
it was a nice note the first time. It wasn't a nice note minute 8.
But Sam, if you've ever been driving down the highway at night and this song comes on, whoo, it's a mood.
Yeah, nah, I'm sure it is. I mean, I love the end again. I love the start and the end. The Wurlitzer organ comes back, and it just made me be like, I wish I was listening to whatever song that was taken from rather than this one.
How about we go on to the next song, if ready, Sam?
Yes.
Pablo's Cruise, which is another short little intermission, less than a minute long, which really does have this kind of I don't know, forlorn quality to it that the kind of the rest of the songs don't have.
Yeah,
like a ship passing by you in the night.
I really enjoy this one because it's more of a soundscape. You know, you've got the sounds of the sea, there's a fairground on a pier, and then the foghorn of a ship. You know, it's very short, but it plays as audio theater. Sorry.
Which I quite enjoy. Just kind of it just kind of puts you in a setting for a minute and just like, hey, just enjoy it a little bit. And then it leads into track number 13, if you're ready, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Frontier Psychiatrist, which is also a single from the album.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this one before.
This is definitely their most famous song of anything they've done.
Yeah.
Um, which is interesting because it's probably the weirdest one on the album just from a sampling perspective. Like where a lot of these songs have been based around electronic or funk or disco samples, right? They're kind of a main hook. This one, as far as I can tell, is based around a like a radio play about a criminally insane like student.
Yeah, but I think the reason it works is because it's not a 2 second sample that they loop for 3 minutes. Is they're taking longer samples, they're telling a story, even if it's disjointed and odd. They're having the traditional build to the chorus, middle section, chorus again, end. Instead of just we've made 20 seconds, we're gonna play that for 5 minutes. I think that's why this one has succeeded.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I guess you're right in terms of having maybe that more traditional song structure, but it's done through a very odd lens of basically the song stories being told through like a bunch of intentionally, obviously disparate, like different sample sources
Mm-hmm.
about this boy needs therapy.
Yeah. I would say it did lose me a bit by the 2:30 mark. That section between the chorus was a bit too. They slipped back into the here's 5 seconds that sounds good. It'll sound good for a minute if we play it if we keep doing it, and then it throws the chorus in again, which I didn't feel like they put enough between the chorus. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also like I don't know how else to say it, a little bit of a spooky song. Like there's a lot of like kind of like ghostly wooing in the background, but also paired with like record scratches, brass, the horse when he's come back, your favorite Sam, um, and a really strong drum loop.
Yeah, I gotta love the horse when I.
This one I think it works a little better just because it kind of adds to like this. There's also like a slightly weird like there's like a western vibe to it as well. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a melding of a lot of different, almost like it's like a soundscape of like 1950s like radio plays, right? The psychiatrist part, the cowboy part. There's like this extended audio like taking of like a student like talking to a teacher and talking about different what makes sounds besides a human, right? Or what talks besides a human, a record, a bird, and then they kind of sample it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very fun song.
Yeah, it's I'm glad they do a little bit more of the twisting and tuning of samples in this one that Daft Punk is famous for. If I can keep bringing them up, but jumping to track 14, if you're ready, Coop.
Yes, track number 14, ETOH. Not sure what that stands for.
It's the sound that they keep making.
What? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, they keep going Ito or Ito.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
How'd you? That's like again. That's the one they pick a sample
Well,
and they
like,
loop it for the entire track length.
I don't hear everything. Um, no, but this song is definitely a big tonal shift from the Frontier Psychiatrist.
Yes.
All right, it becomes a lot more relaxed. It's got this kind of glittery synth mixed with like bongos and kind of those sampled vocals kind of floating over everything.
It it has a little vocoder segment in the middle. Again, they do take some of the things from Frontier Psychiatrist. They had a little snippet about computers speaking from some old show and movie, and then they put in a bunch of vocoders, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was fun.
And it's also the song kind of heavily samples like woodwinds. Not just flute, but kind of I don't know if it's like clarinet or something, but it's kind of like the main melodic line once you get past the 2 minute point. Kind of paired with those vocoders, which kind of get gruffer and lower as the song goes on.
Mm-hmm. It, I this is one that kind of suffered from not having a through line. I felt like they don't really build. It goes back to the conversation about the traditional song structure, you know, having a beginning, middle, and an end instead of just kind of existing. And I definitely feel this one runs a bit too long for the themes that it brings in.
And that's fair. A lot of the songs don't um, follow that traditional song structure as much, which I think is it still works just because it's kind of couched within the larger structure of the album.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the ebb and flow there. I mean, some are a little more traditional, even in their own weird way, like Frontier Psychiatrist. But it's definitely certainly like setting up a mood and letting it lead to like a next song.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the theme, some of the themes in this one. It just, again, I think it just sticks around for too long. I mean, this whole how long is this album? It's like an hour,
Oh,
right?
just about. It's just like it's like a couple seconds over an hour.
It's I don't know. It's just some of them definitely stay around for too long.
How about we jump to track number 15 if you're ready, Sam?
Yes, track 15.
Summer Crane. Which definitely remains, it keeps the relaxed vibe and actually some of the vocal samples from the last song.
Yes.
Um, and also kind of brings back the main melodic line from Since I Left You. Kind of floats in the background that I noticed.
It also brings in a ringing bell only in the left ear that gets louder and louder as the song goes on.
Oh, I didn't notice that either.
I did.
And you loved it. You like things in your
I
left
did
ear.
not. But there was around the 3:30 mark. There was a little bit of theremin that came in, which I thought was nice. But again, this one holds on to sequences for too long. It could very easily be a case of, you know, if you're just sitting and listening, it's better. But analyzing it, they loop things so often.
It lets you luxuriate in them.
Yeah, sure.
Um, Also, I mean, it brings back a little bit of Spanish guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got some really gorgeous strings and violins in the back half. Um, Kind of brings in actually a lot of ideas from the rest of the album.
Yes, which
Like the
is
main leafage, the kind of a mild, carryover from ETOH.
mm-hmm.
The strings at the end. It really is really is a proper Indian album right here.
And this album's not over though. Jumping to track 16.
Oh, track 16. Oh, track 16 is the one little, like a minute and a half, sorry, track 16, Little Journey.
Yes.
It's like a little minute and a half outro to an album, really. They say Bon Voyage. There's this nice cinematic violin build, nice sweet little sampled outro for the rest of the album.
Yeah, the 30-second mark is too much. There's no structure, just spammed out samples. Really did not enjoy that. I did like it where it ended up at the 1 minute mark, but that's just a straight song rip rather than anything they built.
Waikiki.
with anything, I think them putting other things over top that song ruined it. But to each their own. That's still not the end.
Yes.
Track 17.
Of course, joke. We go into track number 17, Live at Domino's, which is actually the longest on the album, and very much picks up the energy of Flight 22 is off to Honolulu.
Yes. It's got some really fun vocoder at the start. There's some pulsing bass line and some electronic noise that pops back and forth between the ears, which is fun.
And I will say, this is I'm fairly certain no one's made this comparison before, but this one has a lot of Daft Punk influences. Or obviously a very danceable beat, clear disco influences, the vocoded kind of vocal line, and kind of this really club drum remix thing it's got going on with its instrumentation.
And then at 2:20 they just start back at the start again. All build is gone and they're just doing it again.
Yeah, I'll admit this one gets a little long in the tooth for me. This is where I see your world, Sam.
Yeah.
Where it does have kind of a spacey transition.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Mark.
You know, some
but it kind of
heavy filter over the bass and some strings to change up the pace.
but I always think that the album kind of has like such a nice landing point with like the first half of Little Journey, and then it kind of re-picks it up to reintroduce ideas that have kind of already been done or done better on like Electricity or like Radio. Um,
Mm.
I'm not really sure what this song particularly brings that's new to the table.
Yeah. Well, especially once we get to the 3 minute mark, it's just three songs playing at the same time. They aren't even the same tempo.
Maybe that's just how Domino's plays its music.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that.
Yeah, no, but it does end off. We do have one more song to go.
Yes, the true final track of the album.
Yes, the two final track number 18, Extra Kings.
And this one does do quite a bit of calling back to the opening track. You know, it's got some fun electronica, kind of loops back to the start, which is nice.
Yeah, it's got a relaxed, almost kind of nostalgic feel to it. Introducing some like horns and woodwinds that kind of float over the song to its completion. Um, they're kind of intentionally kind of 60s, 70s throwback.
Mm-hmm.
It does have this kind of whirling, kind of reversed noise breakdown at the 130 point. Before going back into it, but I almost kind of think of it as like the flute kind of stays there to anchor you to reality.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it ends on the Since I Left You vocal refrain to really tie a nice bow on everything.
Yes. And that's that. That's the end of the album.
That is the full album. Of course, now we'll be going on to disc 2
Yeah.
of the 20th anniversary deluxe edition.
Yeah, that album
Which
was
is another hour of material.
2.5 hours long.
Yes. I was hoping you wouldn't see that there was a disc 2 and that you just think I was suggesting we do a 2.5 hour long album.
Yeah. No, I scrolled down and I said, did he seriously not remove the second half? But thankfully you did.
Which unlike enough, the one of their remixes has a MF Doom remix.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's the end of the album. So Sam, with all that being said, covered a lot of ground.
Yes.
What is your favorite song on the album?
I think my favorite would probably have to be Electricity. It felt the most put together. It had traditional song structure, which was appreciated. And overall, it was just a good time. You know, started an interesting place, ended an interesting place. What about you, Coop? What did you say your favorite is?
Maybe it's a bit of a basic pick, but Frontier Psychiatrist.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I think if you're trying to get anyone to listen to this album, or just kind of into sampling as a whole, this is just a great song of like having like immediately identifiable samples, but done in like kind of such a fun and like diverse way that taking all these very disparate elements and mashing them together to make a coherent sound. And just a load of fun. It's very tongue in cheek while also being a groove. I quite like it. Now, what's your least favorite song of the album, Sam?
Ooh, to pick one. I'm gonna have to say Tonight May Have to Last Me All My Life. It's just not a song. They made a 20-second loop and then looped it for 2 minutes. It's not good. What about you, Coop?
I'd probably have to say Live at Domino's.
Yeah.
I don't think it does anything necessarily, excuse me, super egregious. But it also is just like, I feel like this album could chop off like Live at Domino's, and like the last half and the first half of Little Journey, Extra Kings. Like you got your complete album ending right there. Mm-hmm. It feels kind of like a weird addition that interrupts the flow of the album a little bit when it had already kind of moved past its disco phase. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if you just moved this earlier into the album, I would like it a bit more. But alas, it is not. So I kind of put it at the bottom here. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's our
that's the
favorite and
album.
least favorite.
We gotta rate it now, Coop, and I believe it's your turn for the rating system.
Yeah, of course. So here at the Audio Shop Podcast, we love cars because actually a while back, it was COVID, right? You could go out driving, but you couldn't really go anywhere, so you did a lot of driving. Uh, and me and Sam were just driving around long, listen to some of our favorite albums, Ringo by Ringo Starr, among others. And who would we see on the side of the road but Ringo Starr himself, Sir Richard Starsky? And he jumped in, and we're like, "Wow, it's a living legend, a Beatle." And can we just say he was extremely rude? He has a thick Texas accent. Didn't expect that.
Yeah.
He would only play dubstep, which was fine, but it got a little tiring after a while. Um, and would spit everywhere, just all inside the car.
Yeah, with his tobacco. Yeah.
And then we dropped him off. He gave us a week and said, "Thanks for the ride, boys," and paid us $100,000 in cash.
Yeah.
So really, do not know what to make of the man.
It was all $1 bills though, and each one had his face stamped over over Lincoln. Who's on the $1 bill? You can tell
George Washington.
You can tell I don't use
illegal.
cash very often anymore.
Surprisingly, still accepted as legal tender.
Yep.
And we stuck it all into this podcast.
all
so,
100,000 of it.
Yeah. So in terms of our rating system, at the tip top, the cream of the crop, we've got Showroom, which is the best of the best, the music you want to show to everyone you like. And all the way at the bottom, we've got Scrapyard. That's the yuck, get it away from me. It's absolute worst, albums you can imagine. And we've got a Like New, Fixer Upper, Used Rental in between, and we'll give it a high or low given our mood that day. So without that being said, Sam, how would you rate Since I Left You by the Avalanches?
You're not going to be happy with me. I'm going to give it a low used rental.
Oh my goodness, you were not that mean to the album while we were reviewing it.
It's not very good, Cooper. It has a couple redeeming qualities. I like a lot of the themes it introduces, but holy shit, they need to learn to get to the point. Most of the songs did not need to be as long as they were. Every song was at least 3 minutes. Most of them were 4. Yeah, it's too long. There's some little good bits in there, but as an album experience, it's not a good album experience. What about you? What's your rating?
Oh, man, by the way you're talking about that, you'd give it at least a Fixer Upper, but a low used rental. That's tragic. Well, I'm gonna go against what you just said and give it a solid Showroom.
Wow,
I like this album a lot.
This is.
I think. Get to the point, Sam. This music is the point. There's not a destination; it's the journey. No, I've listened to this album a lot. I keep revisiting it. I keep finding new things to enjoy about it. I can respect the perspective that some of the samples they're looped. It's dance music and it can be trance music at times, and maybe that's not everyone's cup of tea. But the level of creativity, the sampling here, the way the songs melt together, kind of the overall album flow, besides like maybe the last portion with Live at Domino's, I think is excellent. Yeah, I haven't really found an album like it since. And I think that's probably because it's very hard to do.
You just got to write a 20-second loop and then loop it for 5 minutes.
No. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. There's not a lot of us.
Everyone is doing it. Have you heard of SoundCloud rappers?
No, do not. That's not what this is.
That one was just get a rise out of you.
So, I think this is a listen. Anyone should listen to, just from a pure album experience. Right, it's pretty singular in terms of its vision, and I think it executes on it remarkably. It may not be to your taste, but it's definitely something worth experiencing.
I would disagree. I would say it's not worth listening to.
Well, you gave it an honest shake. I can respect that, but you're wrong, and I hate you.
I was really enjoying it at the start, but goddamn, I don't like short loops, and that's all this album is.
When you start eating a hamburger and you get to like the third bite and you go, oh, this is just more hamburger. Do you just stop eating it and throw it away?
No, you see, because when I'm eating a hamburger, I don't also have to eat 16 other hamburgers after the first hamburger. So I will admit, having one of these songs, Frontier Psychiatrist, just listen to that song. It's good. It's a good song. Listening to it as track 13 on an 18 track experience, it's not as enjoyable. I don't traditionally make a habit of eating 18 White Castle hamburgers back to back.
Brother, you need therapy. Purely psychosomatic. Sigh. I mean, if you can't understand the genius of adding horse whinnies to half of your track listings, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, to each their own. It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, that's very big of you, Sam.
I always like looking out for the little people like you. Well, that's the album. Rolling on
I'm not
over
much
to
shorter than you.
the Spare Tire, which is whatever else we've been listening to this week. Any actual good music, possibly, that we've been listening to.
Okay, here. My patience is this thin. You're about to catch a loop of these fists.
Yeah. It'll be It'll be strong for about 20 seconds and then very weak for the next 5.
Hush you.
But I don't think I've really been listening to all that much. I've been listening to a lot of Justice still, just looping that. That's pretty much it. Just continuously listening to Justice, which I think we should have called Cross because they call it Cross.
I guess, yeah.
Even though it's listed as Justice on Spotify, they themselves call it Cross. But yeah, that's pretty much been it.
I haven't been listening to not too much on streaming. I've been listening to a bit of vinyl, some Tribe Called Quest. I listened since I listened to Since I Left You on vinyl as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like this album. But yeah, honestly, not too much new music here. So maybe there'll be some more coming out here in March and April that I'll be able to catch.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially since I don't think we're going to be doing any episodes in April.
Yeah, so I'll be me and Sam both have some travel plans coming up that are very conveniently staggered. So
staggered just enough so that the entire month will be taken up. So,
but that'll just give us more music to listen to when we get back.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's all I've got here.
Yeah, that's all I've got as well. So if you've liked what you've heard for some reason and you want to hear some more of it, scroll down the Twitch page and I'll find a picture of Jeff Lynn. He's the guy with the aviators on. And that'll take you to YouTube where almost all of our past episodes are. And then if you're on YouTube and you want to listen to us live, there's a link in the description. Usually 8 p.m. Eastern every Sunday, but as we just said, there's not going to be anything in April. And we've got a Blue Sky as well.
Yes, you can follow us at Blue Sky at Audio Shop Pod. That's POD. We'll let you know what we're listening to and when we're listening to it.
But that's all we got. We will see you next time.
See you later, shoppies.
We'll see you.